right?
Yes.
I'm glad I'm right occasionally.
Hello, I'm back. As you may have guessed from my previous performance, I have not stuck solely with classical singing. As someone who loves all kinds of music, it seems crazy to me to only learn how to sing in one genre. It's like loving to paint, but only ever painting in one colour. As there's a whole variety of audiences and gigs out there in Perth. If I stuck only to opera, I would probably only work 1 month of the year. So, to prepare myself for the wedding gigs, the party events, the jazz clubs and the dance floors, I thought it was high time I did some more training. Oh, goodness, sorry. I'm obviously not a techie. So, in February, back to Whopper I went and I have begun some jazz lessons. After only 1 week, I had fallen in love with jazz, and after 6 months, boy, have I learned a whole new musical language. Instead of a classical score where every minor detail is notated and all your instructions and expressions are put on the page, jazz musicians perform music off lead sheets, or what they call a form, where they just give you the barest skeleton of the music, and musicians talk to each other in code to tell each other what they're going to do and how they're going to improv from what's different on the page. For a classical singer, I felt like I was fighting every instinct I had learnt up until that point. In classical singing, you must keep time and not vary from what the composer has written. In jazz, you're expected to play around with the rhythms, to push and pull the timing, to improvise and change the melody to be as individual and unique as possible. It was a challenge for me, but it was liberating, and I have learnt so much about my voice as an instrument and being able to use the same muscles and the same vocal techniques I learnt as an opera singer in a completely new way and in a new style. Earlier, I sung for you a classical art song. Now I will sing what is called a jazz standard. This term standard is given to well-known jazz pieces that all jazz musicians are expected to know and be able to perform without rehearsal at the drop of a hat. This particular standard is by Morgan Lewis, and it is called How High the Moon.
Somewhere there's music, how faint the tune. Somewhere there's heaven, how high the moon. There is no moon above when love is far away too, till it comes true that you love me as I love you. Somewhere there's music, it's where you are. Somewhere there's heaven, how near or far. The darkest night will shine if you would come to me soon. Until you will have still my heart, how high the moon. Better Deva dilla ba da 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 day, da ba da day, da ba da day, ba da day, dip 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 ba da, da ba da 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 da, ba ba dee, da ba do it da da dee, da ba do it da da, should have put up da 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 do it. Deva dilla ba da da ba da day, da ba da day, da ba da day. But the thing that put the day has still my heart, how high the moon. Somewhere there's music, how faint the tune. Somewhere there's heaven, how high the moon. There is no moon above when love is far away too, till it comes true. Oh, that you love me the darkest night will shine if you would come to me soon. Unto you will house still my heart. How high the moon, the moon.
Thanks, guys. After only a few months, you can probably hear I'm still very green. There's so much that I haven't learnt, and I'm just beginning to learn all these new things. But I'm excited to share with you the beginning of this next chapter for me. You might be surprised to hear that what is considered good, healthy singing technique doesn't actually change between genres. Instead, the differences you hear come from how we stylize the voice and which techniques we utilize and focus on. Our vocal biomechanics and the physical use of our body doesn't actually fundamentally change. In other words, the way our voice functions is the same, but how we stylize and utilize our voice creates different outcomes depending on what we do. I'll put it to you as an analogy. Imagine a singer is a manual car. Your voice box is the engine, and your abdominal breath support is the accelerator. A jazz singer may only need to drive along a flat, smooth road with only a few winding passages. To do so, they need only use the first few gears. There's no need for them to put their foot on the pedal and pump out an extreme amount of spinning air or support to get where they need to go. For the majority of jazz singing, vocalists stay in the chest voice and don't need to project past the microphone. As a result, there isn't as much audible vibrato heard, and jazz singers can focus on the colours and textures they use in their voice to imitate speech without having to worry about being heard over an entire orchestra. Now, an opera singer may need to drive the exact same car, but up a steep hill to reach that high note that can be heard to ping over an orchestra. For this, they'll need to crank that car up to the 5th or 6th gear and engage all that the God gave them. With that much juice and that much airflow, you're more likely to hear a dense, a stronger sound with a lot more vibrato and spin heard. It's the same voice, it's the same car, but they're just taking road trips on different terrains. If we consider the differences in jazz and classical as being based on how we apply and stylize the voice, rather than uncomplimentary oppositions of the voice itself, it could be argued that a singer possesses the potential to transition between both styles successfully. This idea is often referred to as cross-genre or hybrid singing. I could talk your ear off about this non-stop, as you probably may have guessed, but I won't. Instead, I would like to demonstrate this for you. As my final piece, I will showcase a theatrical number by Janine Tesori, which uses multiple singing styles within the same song. The number is called The Girl in 14G, and it's sung from the perspective of a quiet, unassuming girl who has just moved into an apartment building with some very noisy neighbours.
Just moved into 14G, so cozy, calm, and peaceful. Heaven for a mouse like me, with quiet by the leaseful. Pets are banned, parties too, and no solicitations. A window seat with garden view, a perfect nook to read a book. I'm lost in my Jane Austen when I hear say it isn't so, not the flat below. Coming up, wanna be in 13G, a matinee of some cantata, Wagner's ringing Traviata. My first night in 14G, I'll put up with Puccini. I'll brew myself a cup of tea, crochet until she's feeding. 8:30, not a peep, except the clock tick-tocking. Now I lay me down to sleep, a comfy bed to rest my head. A stretch, a yawn, I'm almost gone. Then now the girl upstairs wakes me unawares, blowing down from 15G, her revelry. She's scouting like her name is Ella. Guess who answers a cappella? I'm not one to raise my voice, make a fuss, or speak my mind, but might I query, would you mind if, could